I spoke to a former player. He hasn't officially announced his retirement, but I think he's pretty much retired. And he told me this conspiracy theory about Scott Boras, but it sounds quite interesting because he believes that Boras has had a bigger impact up until recently on just the league overall. Do you think that that's true? And what kind of impact does he have just as being a super agent?
Well, look, to me, Scott is like Theo Epstein in terms of his prominence. He's the greatest ever, and that's never going to change. Theo could run a baseball team and they could finish last place 10 straight years, but it's never going to change the fact that he was the guy running the team when the Red Sox won the World Series for the first time in 86 years, and the Cubs won the World Series for the first time in 108 years. Scott's that person on the Union side. But there's also no question that this winter, in terms of perception within the industry, that he took some big hits. Blake Snell being the biggest one. Last week, when Blake Snell was throwing for scouts, auditioning for scouts of, I guess, the Houston Astros and the Giants, I tweeted out, that's like to ask a reigning Cy Young Award winner to throw for scouts is like asking Tom Cruise to audition for a community theater. Like, what is going on? You're not going to have a better platform here than Blake Snell, and yet he winds up signing a 2-year contract with a lot of money deferred. That's insane, and you can't paint that as anything other than a loss. I don't agree with the perception that the Cody Bellinger contract was terrible for him, and some of the others. I think a lot of times Scott suffers from the fact that we have these huge projections in the fall that are put out by reporters. Well, Blake Snell is going to get $220 million, or Blake Snell is going to get $230. And so when he gets 62, it makes Scott look worse.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any doubt that while he might have had some victories, Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, big losses.
And I guess every now and then you get a loss, even if you're Scott Boras. So that's interesting.
And he's played a gamut, and he's done so well, and you can't argue with the track record. But in those two instances, man, that really hurt the player. Matt Chapman turned down about $125 million last spring from the Toronto Blue Jays, and he winds up getting a $50 million contract. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat that.
Yeah.